Hello, my name is Kermit Andrew Day. A lot of you know me as Kerm. I've lived in this area almost my whole life. I'm a true to the game, legacy market cannabis consultant. You may have recently seen me working at Codes Medical Dispensary, Lake St. Louis, Missouri. Unfortunately, I've decided to quit. I guess you can say I was fired. They reached out to me a few hours after I texted them, letting them know I quit, just to say I was fired. So I was thinking it would be only appropriate to let everyone know the truth about what's going on with this dispensary and why you should never make any cannabis purchases with them. Did you know the companies Good Day Farm, Codes, and Tank are all the same thing? There's not a difference in any of the products they sell other than a terp additive for flavor. You learn all this when you're hired, but I kind of figured that already. It's part of the onboarding process to educate you on how to sell weed. Newsflash! I sold weed in the St. Louis area for the past 30 years up until I lost my customer base to the dispensaries. You really can't tell me much that I don't already know, so I'm now going to tell you what you need to know about Codes, Lake St. Louis. Since cannabis has gone legal in Missouri, I've applied at a few dispensaries, and I noticed that I almost always get a "thanks for applying, but we're moving on with other applicants" letter. So it wasn't much of a surprise how quickly my first application was rejected. What did come as a surprise was being hired a week later for a delivery driver / bud tender position. I mean, what the F? How are you gonna reject my first application, then hire me as a driver a week later? Obviously, it's my previous work experience. I have a lot of driving experience, but there's no way to go into detail about my previous cannabis industry experience. That was all under the table. So I can't get upset that they don't realize that I'm an industry vet who has lived in Humboldt County, California, off and on for the past 20 years at least. I've done it all, from running a trim scene, to water runs, to pump water out of the river to water the plants with. This was way before Missouri ever considered legalizing, so I refused to conform to industry indoctrination. I was extremely excited to be hired by Codes, albeit I was unsure if it was going to last for long, and as fate would have it, it took about 3 weeks to get fired for keeping it real. Perfect example of when keeping it real goes wrong. This place used to be called The Source Cannabis until it was bought out by Good Day Farms, which is Codes. So don't make the mistake of thinking there's a difference in their products. Did I already say that? The manager's name is Nick Lamert. He should be banned from the cannabis industry completely, with a few other people that are employed there. Nick used to work for Proper, and to my understanding was let go from there. Can't remember the reason, but it was a major foul up on his part, and he was worried he wouldn't find work in this industry again. He's way underqualified to be running a cannabis dispensary. I don't care what his previous work experience is. He only started smoking cannabis when Missouri legalized and had a small closet grow with his mom. How cute! That's apparently what qualifies him to run a dispensary. Laughable at best. Nick has no clue what he's doing, and he's trying to build a team. The problem is I'm unsure Nick knows the definition of the word team. He's not a team leader or a team player, and the team he has assembled has to be the worst team in the history of teamwork. He's the poster child of what a retail transplant looks like. He's not anything close to legacy market, and a walk-off deadlot will pick him apart in a matter of seconds in a cannabis debate. Kendrick Lamar would most likely tell you that Nick is not like us, not like us, not like us, and has no clue what true cannabis culture is. I feel sorry for him, honestly. So after being hired, I began training under the tutelage of Wendy. Keep in mind, Nick hired Wendy to play for his team and is now struggling to figure out how to fire her. I'm going to explain why I said that, but I think it's pertinent to say that on my first day there, I was told that they've had 6 people 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people quit in the past month. I was thinking to myself, damn, and had to question myself why. But I jumped to the conclusion that Nick most likely hired them based on how much weed they smoke on a daily basis and thought that makes them great candidates to join the team. I mean, who knows these days? I just didn't understand how anyone can not want to work in this now legal industry and provide quality cannabis to the community unless they were just too young to handle the pressures of the job. Well, as it turns out, Nick picked some real winners. Let me tell you, the delivery driver job is only part-time and they only get up to 6 deliveries on their best day. That only takes about 3 hours to knock out. Nick is trying his hardest to make the business succeed and have deliveries daily. The first issue that is deterring him from his goal is that the main driver, Wendy, lives 28 miles away from Lake St. Louis, which is absurd. I used to live in Franklin County and would apply for jobs outside of my area and almost always got a call back only to be told they would hire me if I lived closer. So this should go to show that Nick is desperate to hire anyone, no matter how far they live from the store. Not only that, but he thinks that if you're married to someone who's a pothead, that qualifies you for the job. The second issue is Wendy is literally addicted to fentanyl, and I had to spend the first couple of days in a car with her telling me her whole life story. So I'm not slandering her when I say she's a drug addict, and you definitely don't want someone like that behind the wheel of your company vehicle. The whole time she was training me, she would miss turns. Even after I told her where to turn, she would still go the opposite direction. Well, I was thinking, what the F? I was trying to decide if she was on other drugs than weed. She's definitely codependent on nicotine vape and Mountain Dew to get through the day. And if you think she's not high all day, guess again. The question is whether or not she's on weed or pills. Pathetic. Not the type of person you want walking up to your front door under any circumstance. She's also around 57 years old, not sure she should be operating a motor vehicle at all, and needs to have her license revoked. There's no way she's a professional driver just because she passed 25 questions to obtain her Class E. With all this being said, I've been 100% sober for the past 3 weeks because I believe a true professional driver should be. I've already smoked so much weed in my life, it doesn't make a difference to me. There's no high like the most high, if you catch my drift. I noticed a few things Wendy did the first day of training me that should get you fired immediately. And I mean fired. No questions asked. If this was a more experienced company, so before she even gets the deliveries ready for the day, she checks the orders to see how much she's being tipped and bases her routes off who tips more. The wild thing about this is she will have an emotional outburst in front of staff about how people are not tipping her enough. Then you're going to get an earful in the car about how she lives in poverty and she just got off fentanyl. And she needs more tips because she has to spend $20 in gas to get to work every day. I'm assuming there are other jobs that pay better that are closer. Then she might rant about men get tipped more than women, which is hilarious in itself because the majority of the male staff believe they need to hire more ladies because they get more tips. Pathetic. None of them have ever heard the term instant rapport and don't understand that you have to build that in order for a customer to trust you. And that still doesn't mean you deserve a tip whatsoever. Another downside of this industry is how desperate the budtenders look with the tip jars in front of the registers. I personally found it difficult to give people change without looking like I was hovering it over the tip jar. So I tried always to give the people their change without being within distance of that jar. That's harder than it looks. Wendy doesn't plan her routes out. She shows up at customers' houses sometimes hours before the delivery window is scheduled for and doesn't call ahead of time to confirm the customer is home. She also applies people's point discounts to their order without confirming with the customer first. A lot of customers would rather save the discount for a later time. The discount is based off of a point system. The more you spend at this place, you will eventually accumulate $10 off coupons. But this is literally how she was training me, and if I ran the company, I would fire her for checking the tips, period. Her job is to be of service, not bitch and moan about not being tipped enough. It brings down the energy of the whole team. At the same time, you really can't call the staff a team. Another thing that I noticed, that after the first delivery on the first day, we didn't have any other deliveries until 5 to 7 p.m. So Wendy thought it would be okay to leave the customer's order in the hot car all day. I was like, are you crazy? So that alone should tell you she's very uneducated on THC. Leaving it in the hot car like that will kill THC faster than it will kill a child. I asked if she was going to take it out, and her response was, should I? Like, OMG, you work at a dispensary. How can you not know better? Now you should be asking yourself, what qualifies Nick to do the hiring? Absolutely nothing. He hires drug addicts that have very little cannabis knowledge. Believe me when I say I know Wendy's whole life story. It takes one hit of nicotine vape and she opens up to you like you're her therapist. I would prefer not to listen to someone talk about how they cheated on their husband for an hour. That's what you call professionalism? At least once a day, Wendy would have an outburst about how she was promised free samples every Friday and she would have never taken the job had she known she wouldn't get a bag of treats every Friday. The irony of this is, if you ask Nick, the manager, if he's ever seen the movie Friday starring Ice Cube, he's clueless. Again, this is not cannabis culture. It's a corporate green crack sales. With Wendy living as far away from the store as she does, she's consistently late and or needs someone to cover her shift. I covered for her at least twice while working there. Once on my own birthday, mind you, while she tried to emotionally manipulate me with her excuse of having to take her husband to the hospital, which is not my problem, but I took the shift because I need the money to help my mom with the mortgage. Another time, she was scheduled to work on a Monday. Nick scheduled her on a Monday on purpose, so she didn't have to drive to work on her day off to get tips she doesn't deserve. So I worked for her and come around 7:30 p.m. Guess who shows up to work? Wendy. She came in just to buy weed. She couldn't make it to work because her back hurt, but came in later at night to buy herself drugs. This is the problem with the legal industry. They hire people who want to smoke more than work. Another time, when Wendy was training me, she lashed out at me because I told her she doesn't know shit about weed, which she doesn't. Truth hurts. I was trying to explain to her what the black market was like before legalization, and if I walked into the store, the first guy I would walk up to would be Luther. She told me you can't judge people on their appearance and that she's been doing this longer than anyone. So I asked her what she meant. Has she been working retail longer than anyone or selling weed on the black market? Her response was she wouldn't have sold weed because it was illegal. So when I told her she didn't know ish, she had an emotional outburst and called me an a-hole. Then an hour later, lashed out at me again and said I didn't even apologize, which I assured her I didn't owe her an apology. Then maybe 30 minutes later, after a delivery, I told her that the job reminded me of the movie Half-Baked. She asked what that was. I said, Half-Baked with Dave Chappelle, a cult classic stoner movie. She said, oh, Chappelle Show? At that point, I was like, never mind. I rest my case. You don't know shit about weed. I don't want to sound like I hate Wendy. I really do care for her as a person, but she's definitely underqualified to play for the team. Another scenario that took place that should have got her fired was when she emotionally manipulated Nick, the manager, into zeroing out a pack of gummies for a customer, all because he claimed there should have been 9 packs on his order. It didn't show 9 on the receipt, and he definitely wasn't charged for 9. But Wendy promised the man she would have Nick make it right. So let me get this straight. It's okay to waste the company's time and money shooting the breeze with a customer while out doing deliveries and promise them that you will give them a free pack of gummies and deliver that $9 pack of gummies to the customer later free of charge, even though it's a $50 minimum order to qualify for free delivery. That's cray-cray, especially since Trey got upset with me for taking 60 cents out of the tip jar to prevent a female customer from having to run out to her car for change to afford her purchase. Take it out of my paycheck. I earned $50 in tips that day by myself, and Trey reprimanded me for 60 cents. But Wendy is giving out gummies for free to every customer who claims it should have been on the order and then delivering it for free. I'm assuming this is how Wendy thinks you earn tips, by giving out merchandise. Pathetic. Wendy also told me within 2 days of working there that one of the leads, Dylan, has a permitted grow but is selling his flower on the black market. Actually, she said Ryan was selling it for him out the back door. I'm thinking to myself, please tell me this isn't true. Loose lips sink ships, and she's saying this all in the car that has a camera on us at all times. I'm hoping it's just information, and I really care for Dylan. I would hate for this place to get raided because Wendy can't keep her mouth shut. I also don't want to be associated with them if it's true. I don't want my name anywhere near that investigation. The irony of this is there is a dry erase board above the cash registers that customers can't see, and Ryan wrote down a life goal of opening the world's first bathroom dispensary. Yikes! This makes me think thoughts I don't want to think, that maybe Ryan is selling flour out of the restroom because there's obviously no cameras in there. Again, you call this a team? Ryan is a 20-something-year-old kid that has no real-world experience. He told Trey that he's a redneck for being a Chris Stapleton fan. Ryan is white, and his favorite rapper is most likely Key Glock. So where Nick finds these people is beyond me. Ryan is a silly white boy that a real street hustler will pick apart in a matter of minutes. He's constantly saying he's going to quit and transfer over to another dispensary in Wentzville when it opens. The irony of the situation, no matter how cool Dylan is, the only thing he ever talks about is how he has a permitted grow and he's probably going to quit because he's worked there 5 years and he's making more money off his grow now. It's the only thing Dylan talks about. I refuse to play for this team. If Dylan and Ryan think they are going to retire off the black market sales, more power to them, but I applied assuming that there was no criminal activity going on in there. I'm not accusing, but like I said, I don't want my name wrapped up in that investigation. I used to train jiu-jitsu with the head of the St. Charles County SWAT team and would hate to be on his bad side. I'm sure Dylan's grow is fully permitted. That's great. He never offered to sell me anything. I even offered to help him trim because he told me Ryan trims for him sometimes, and Nick, the manager, said it's a legal grow. So I hope for his sake that it's just Wendy gossiping a little too much. Either way, I don't want to play for a team that is obviously out of sync with one another. Dylan is not the problem with the team. But if he thinks about quitting that much, I would have already taken the initiative and let him go. But hey, that's just me. It's too much of a fast-paced business to have anyone on team who is trying to run a large grow on the side. You should either be dedicated to your job or leave. There's only a few people I would kick off the team immediately. I'm not 100% sure Wendy is worth keeping on staff, but I do think she would make a good door greeter. The first person I would kick off the team for being fake would be Will. Bear in mind there are now 2 Wills working there, and I'm referring to the lead Will, not the second Will they just hired. Will number 2 is actually the perfect fit for the team. The only mistake I saw him make while working there was telling a customer that the THCM label on the packaging stands for Missouri. That's hilarious. That's hilarious that he would think that. That's a true stoner hypothesis if I ever heard one. He told a customer that every state has a similar label. Cali is CA, Colorado is CO, and there is no way in hell M is Missouri. If you're from the Show Me State, you already know Missouri MO stands for Missouri. The truth is that under Missouri statute, the label on the packaging must read THCM if it is approved as a medical product. The irony of this is there is also a semi-synthetic version of THC known as THCM. For more information on that, type it in your search engine, because that's a conspiracy theory, and I'm not trying to elaborate. If you're anything like myself, you may be wondering why you can buy THCM products if you're a recreational user. Okay, I'll explain. Another thing Will number 2 said to the same customer asking what THCM stood for is that there is no difference between recreational and medical cannabis. Not trying to call Will number 2 out. Like I said, he should be on the team, but he needs to brush up on his cannabis knowledge. There is actually no such thing as medical cannabis. There is no cannabis approved by the Food and Drug Administration. In order for something to be considered medicinal, it has to be approved by the FDA. Not sure if y'all seen the headlines, but they are currently trying to reschedule marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. That's if you read the headlines. The truth is the only thing they have rescheduled or are looking into rescheduling is the pharmaceutical grade synthetic THC, which is Marinol, etc. That's the only thing approved for a prescription by a doctor. Therefore, the only real version of medical cannabis is pharmaceutical grade synthetic THC. The other only thing that a doctor recommends is cannabis sativa L, aka hemp, which has under 0.3% THC and is legal for cultivation and sale under the Farm Bill but not approved by the FDA. It says in the very first issue of High Times magazine in 1974 that cannabis sativa is hemp. So, is everything over 0.3% THC considered cannabis indica or marijuana? That's the question, because that's the real difference between rec and med cannabis. Don't let a bartender tell you different. Either Will number 2 already knew that and has to stay close-lipped, or just didn't realize it. But that's the difference. So riddle me this. If the only form of cannabis approved for cultivation and sell is hemp, aka cannabis sativa L, how is it possible for a dispensary to sell you an indica or a hybrid? Bingo! It's not possible. It ain't indica, it's pretendica. The only form of THC approved under the Farm Bill to possess and use is cannabis sativa L, which is hemp and has under 0.3% THC. Anything over that THC content is considered marijuana and is still illegal. So that should go to show you that the budtenders will tell you anything as long as you tip them. Also, the average budtender makes about $16 an hour plus tips. They wouldn't get any tips if the card readers worked at the registers. So if you haven't realized it by now, the only reason they claim the card reader is down is so you will withdraw cash. They can't attach a tip to the receipt of a debit card reader. It's not a restaurant. Maybe with the Dutchy Pay system, but the real reason they claim the card reader doesn't work is so you will take out cash from the ATM with a $3.50 withdrawal fee in hopes that you will tip the staff for being fake experts, because if they don't get tipped, they will quit. Why would anyone ever tip someone who claims there's no difference between medical and recreational cannabis? I assure you there is. Don't blame Will number 2. He's one of the only qualified agents they have at Codes, unlike Will number 1. My first impression of Will number 1 was actually good until I got to know him better. Then I was quick to realize that his ego is bigger than his heart and he's a complete joke and should be banned from the industry completely. Just calling it like I see it, folks. Here's why. One of the first things I overheard Will talking about in the back room was how he was ignored by staff at another dispensary and he was going to go on Google Maps and blast them for being treated that way. I don't think Will realizes how much of a fake friendly vibe he gives off. It's hard not to ignore him. I tried my hardest not to ignore him the whole time I was working there, but every time I tried to show love, he wouldn't show it back. I shouldn't have to use a cheat code to get this guy to engage in authentic conversation with me. He reminds me of a backroom stock boy pretending to be a cannabis connoisseur. He really believes his own lies. One day he told a customer that all indica plants taste like pepper and that if you want more flavor you should choose a hybrid because they have better terpene profiles than the sativa plant. According to Will number 1, a hybrid has the high of an indica and the taste of a sativa. Then he went into his sales pitch of how he only smokes certain strains that have such and such terpene profile. He's the definition of a turd with a holier-than-thou attitude. I really wish these people would just tell the public the truth. The truth is, terpenes have more to do with the smell than the taste. They are an aromatic compound, not a flavor, and 90% of the terpenes are destroyed the minute that you light it. That's why they have pre-rolls, etc. that are infused with botanically derived terpenes from other plants. That's the upsell. If you want a stronger taste, you need to buy a botanically infused terped out joint. You know what I mean? If Will really thinks he can taste the difference between terps of a burning bush, then he has the most uncanny taste in the world, and you might need to call Professor X because he's a mutant. So next time you're in store, ask him, what's the terp profile of a lighter's flame? I personally don't care too much about terps, and if I wanted something with derived botanicals, I would buy shampoo. But please understand, a lighter burns at 5,000 degrees and it takes 400 to 500 degrees to burn the fucking terps completely. Evaporate them. They're not coming back. You can't taste them. Another issue I have with lead bud tenders like him is he will straight up lie to a senior citizen to make a sell. Half the gummies they sell don't work because THC doesn't bind to sugar well, and Will would tell you to buy some fatty foods to eat with the gummies. The fact of the matter is that all of the gummies they sell are made with oil derived from hemp. So if you extract THC from a plant that has under 0.3% THC to begin with, chances are it won't work well. All the gummies are made with oil derived from hemp plants. According to the 2018 Farm Bill, the only plants approved for cultivation and sales are cannabis sativa hemp plants. That's what everyone is really buying, eating, and smoking, industrial hemp. But if you purchase a pack of gummies, they should work. You shouldn't have to buy more groceries to activate the THC, as Will would suggest. It's the weakest form of THC you can purchase. This all reminds me of the blind leading the blind. I also asked Will number 1 if he knew anything about cars because the oil in the delivery vehicle needed changed. It was dirty, as it could be. And I asked Will if he think we should change it. He said it goes off the mileage and his dad has a mechanic shop. I'm assuming his dad has a grow as well because Will knows everything about weed. Not. Even Wendy knew that you should change the dirty oil. The last day I was working there, Will told me the music I was listening to sucked and doesn't set the vibe of the store. I was listening to Jimbo Mathis of the Squirrel Nut Zippers, who's a personal friend of mine. Now I admit it was a bit bluegrassy, but it did not suck in any shape, way, or form. So Trey and Luther suggested I play Billy Strings. That's cool. I love Billy Strings. I sold nitrous at a Billy Strings concert. I mean, I never sold Billy Strings nitrous. That's a rumor. So I put on Billy Strings and along comes DJ Will, only to switch to Motown. I admit, not a bad music selection, but come on. Was any of this worth arguing about? I had been playing different music for 5 hours straight, and the customers always liked my selection. In fact, Trenton Ayers, a Grammy-nominated blues musician and a friend of mine, shared a video of me to his Instagram playing his album of Father and Son Legacy on Father's Day in the lobby of Codes, which gave Codes $1 million worth of free promotion. Yet Will is telling me my music selection sucks. Okay, bro. Okay. Anyway, it's only obvious that Will is the definition of a retail transplant and has no clue what cannabis culture is. So while he's talking about setting a good vibe, where I've already shot a major vibration over the internet to the real potheads out there through music culture, which is part of cannabis culture. I don't know where Nick finds these people. Will's Instagram handle is STL Weed Daddy. That is proof enough that he's a clown. Newsflash, the real lonely stoner, STL Weed Daddy, is and always has been me. I believe in my heart that Will needs to spend less time on Instagram and more time listening to Jimbo Mathis. Will lives in a tech bubble, and I hope to God he doesn't freak out after reading this. You can't unplug a brain from the Matrix after a certain age. So best of luck to you, Will, but you're just not certified enough to work in the industry. The second person I would kick off the team immediately would be Trey, which is sad because I liked him at first. He's a true Southern soul, but shows signs of alcoholism and has emotional outbursts, just like Wendy. Hard to say the root cause of their anger, but it's probably from smoking too much hemp. Trey lashed out at me several times while working there, claiming that I'm avoiding people. Ha 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 ha. The truth is the entire staff is avoiding working and they take smoke breaks throughout the day to avoid reality, the definition of escapism. These people would get more tips if they weren't so high all the time. Just because it's a dispensary doesn't mean you should hire lazy stoners. Cody, who is actually really cool, gets so damn high that he often speaks in a low tone. He probably thinks he's being assertive because he's high. Come on now. There are too many customers coming through there for any of the staff to be high. I have a dominant stoner personality myself without being high. In fact, the samples they gave me while working there didn't get me high, and it's not my tolerance. It's because I've been there, done that so many times in my adult life that I've become ultra experienced, and I find being sober to be a better fit these days. That, and don't forget, it's all hemp. Yuck. I was trying to represent for the community and be the sober driver that y'all would expect to show up at your door with your weed, but I got fired for standing my ground and barking louder back at Trey when he barked like a little dog at me, because he's a poodle and I'm a pit bull. See the difference? The thing is, I'm so high on life that I don't look back with any regret for all the years I was stoned out of my mind. Believe me when I say I've spent months laying on the floor, dabbed out of control. I'll go as far as saying I probably had a stroke one time from a nitrous binge. I'm the real deal. So part of the reason people like Trey are jealous of me and want to bark at me is because when the customers come in, they pick up on my heart vibration and not my sales pitch. Trey would do anything to have me fired because he doesn't understand the definition of a real hardcore stoner. Let me tell y'all a little story, okay? And I hope you're listening. One day, a gentleman came in. I complimented him on his Pink Floyd t-shirt. I told him I would play them next, but I was playing a friend of mine's band, Twisted Shorts and the Oddballs, and that I was friends with the lead singer and that he had passed away recently, and I was just trying to get him some spins in the dispensary. The customer knew I was holding in my emotions and was about to break down in tears because I missed my best friend so much. His change was $10 and I didn't waste his time. He didn't ask me to break the bills down to tip me, so I didn't try to give him a 5 and 5 ones. No, I gave him a $10 bill back. The guy told me to keep it, so I asked if he was sure because I didn't feel as if I did anything to deserve it, aside holding back my tears. And this is why Trey doesn't like me, because I'm there for the people and the people are proud that Nick finally hired someone like myself. But the tip meant nothing to me because I have to split it with a bunch of lazy people who don't deserve it. I only see a fraction of that tip. Again, I'm here for the community, not tips, so Trey can go back to Tennessee. I'm sure he's starting to realize he's not welcome in Lake St. Louis. I hadn't told anyone how much I missed my friend or how much I had my emotions bottled up, so when Trey yelled at me and said I was avoiding people, I think it's only natural that I stood my ground, but I caught myself in the act, regained control of my mind and emotions, went to lunch, and then came back and gave Trey a fist bump. I wasn't even going to slap him. I was just going to chew him a new one and let him know it's impossible for me to avoid people because I am the people. I made the mistake of texting Nick on lunch without using Obama's anger translator. Coincidentally, Obama's translator's name is Luther, just like the big homie Luther that works at Codes Lake St. Louis. So when I texted Nick and told him I was going to bitch slap Trey, what I really meant to say was, yo, Nick, I'm about to say something mean and not apologize for it, and you can ask Wendy what I think about apologies. Don't F with me, brother, because I'm Big Kerm, a.k.a. Andy, a.k.a. unapologetically black Andy. That's me, to a T. I'm unapologetically black. Deal with it. Is that hip-hop enough for you? Oh, wait, I realize now that I've gotten way ahead of myself and haven't explained every detail to why I quit. Or, got fired. So I was scheduled from 10 to 8 p.m. and there was not many deliveries rolling in, so I ended up bud tending for the first part of the day for around 5 hours straight. So from 10 to 3 p.m. I was busy. Being that my bud tender application was rejected the first time and I'm technically the delivery driver / backup bud tender who's still in training and supposed to be shadowing people, I was told that, in fact, that my role is to shadow the lead bud tenders more, and I took it upon myself to get the word out that I'm the new delivery driver and I'm sober and ready to bring people their orders if they don't want to leave their comfort zone. It's only obvious that they weren't promoting the delivery service hard enough. Putting flyers in a bag just doesn't cut it. The staff took notice of how good I am with people. So just like Wendy, the rest of the staff act like I'm there for their convenience, and anytime I get overwhelmed and need help, Trey will lash out at me and claim I'm avoiding people. Nonsense! Since being hired, I've covered shifts for Wendy at least twice and came in every time Nick was short-handed. I've maintained a positive attitude and carried the weight of the team on my back while they go out to the parking lot to get high. I got a lot of compliments on my attitude and a lot of tips. All that is great, but I was just happy to be working in the legal industry. I just wanted to be of service. I know my worth, and I'm 100% sure I'm overqualified for the driver position and should be a shop owner. I was literally living in Thailand for the past year and a half and was interested in opening a dispensary there, but Thailand is also changing the laws again. They are no longer going to allow the use of recreational cannabis. It's all going to medical. Overall, I'm the best employee that Codes could have ever hired. I can definitely find another job, but can Codes find another Kerm? Not a chance in the world. Anyway, I had been bud tending nonstop and getting to the point I don't want to ask anyone for help because they get mad when I ask them to do their job. So a couple of regulars come in. I recognize them immediately because they come in every day, but I couldn't find the order, so I asked them if they remember what they ordered. Of course not. Some sort of eighth, don't remember the brand or strain, and I'm magically supposed to make it appear. And then along comes Trey. I know he's busy, but I ask if he's busy anyway, and he gets angry and said he is busy. He was like, yeah, I am. So he snaps at me. Go figure. He tells me to look up the information on the computer, but how can you look up something that the customer doesn't remember what they ordered? At the same time, people are pulling through the drive-thru and the pressure is building. I felt overwhelmed and was trying to turn the cell over to someone who has been there longer. You don't earn commission, but that's called turning over a sale. I was going to get to the drive-thru before it got backed up. It turns out it was under the wrong name. So after the rush of customers, I decide it's time to take a lunch break. I go to the back and I see Trey. Then I do something no one should ever have to do. I apologize to him for asking him for his help, and he immediately yells at me and says I'm avoiding people. At this point, I'm ready just to let him know how long I've been in the game. I wasn't going to slap him or anything, but I did say something with a bit of emotion. I think I said something like, hey, just to let you know. Never mind, bro. Then I went to lunch, ate and regrouped, came back from lunch and was respectful to Trey and ran the deliveries out. The mistake I made was when I was at lunch, I tried to vent my anger to Nick Lemert, the manager, who is not my friend. He's the clown that got me fired, and now he's sending me friend requests on Facebook. What the F, bro? In the words of Young Dolph, F them. I don't F with them. I'm cut from a different cloth. Ask your staff and HR why they hate Kerm. The fact of the matter is, I haven't worked a regular job in at least 4 years. I sold my house and moved abroad. I came back to the U.S. looking for a summer job, and I figured I would be a perfect fit to work at a dispensary if they would hire me. But I'm not used to working in the retail world. I have no understanding of how sissified corporate America is, so I told him in a text that Trey is about to be bitch slapped, and I know someone wanting to buy the store, and if that happens, Trey will be the first to be fired. I thought that was a great text personally, but Nick is related to Beaver Cleaver, and if you text the words bitch slap to him, he will report you to HR because Nick is underqualified to be working in this industry. So I got suspended. They claim to have reviewed the footage of the incident, but when Kelly Spry called me to talk about what happened, I told her everything and it went in one ear and out the other. She didn't engage in any actual conversation with me. She waited till I was finished and asked if I said I was going to bitch slap Trey. I admitted I did, and I apologized to her, and I could have been more tactful with my words, but I never said it. In fact, I texted to Nick thinking that managers are there for you and when you need to ventilate. My mistake. And when I asked to see a copy of the footage, I was told they don't release the footage without a court subpoena. Nick really had no legitimate reason to tell HR anything. HR is his corporate mother, and he needs to call his mommy every time someone says a bad word in front of him. So at this point, I'm beyond fed up and come to the realization why people keep quitting this job. It's because everyone there is high on the hog and don't understand what being a team is. When I texted Nick, I was letting him know that my other teammates are instigating drama with me. Trey is a passive-aggressive drama queen and most likely fabricated his side of the story to get me fired. They don't want people like me working there because I know too much. I already told you the difference between medical and recreational cannabis, right? They want to hire someone they can brainwash with an onboarding app. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So in case you've been wondering why the flower they sell doesn't get you high, it's because it's cannabis sativa L, aka hemp. The THC percentage on the packaging is a lie. THC degrades when not in a vac seal bag. Air and heat kills THC. So no matter what the label says, bear in mind they don't tell you the date the weed was packaged and how long it's been in a warehouse. Hemp has under 0.3% THC, and to top that off, you only reap maybe 27 to 36% of the cannabinoids when you smoke it. Maybe 30% of them are destroyed when you light it, and the rest is gone when you blow it out. Hard truth. It's all hemp-based THC, and none of it can be considered top-tier anything. The more you know, the more you grow, and I suggest you grow your own if you want to get stoned, because the only cannabis this place is dispensing is cannabis sativa L, aka hemp. Thanks to Donald Trump. The term medical dispensary is synonymous with the word BS, bullshit. My dad was a nurse, and I guess I followed in his footsteps, but the difference is he went to school and I paid $75 for a medical marijuana qualifying agent card, so it's officially official. I'm now an expert in the field. If you eat your vitamins and pray and set big goals and love Hulkamania, one day you too can pay $75 just like me and become a qualified professional. So this about concludes my rant, but I would also like to tell you about a few things I did to help customers out while I was there. I worked a shift for Wendy on my birthday. I had a sample pre-roll that was given to me by Vivid. It was just a sample for being an employee, not a birthday joint. I had no plan to smoke it because I was staying sober, taking the delivery job seriously. A customer came in and asked Momo if we gave out pre-rolls as birthday gifts. I've noticed nearly every customer that comes in wants a discount or a free sample for being a good Samaritan. You know, I gave the customer my pre-roll just for being born a day after me. That's called being selfless and giving samples to customers over employees. No big deal. Another time I gave a lady a free battery that was given to me as a promotional item. She had meant to purchase a disposable and bought a cart by mistake. So being selfless, I gave my promotional item away to a customer in need. That's what you call avoiding people, huh? Yeah, right, Trey. How am I avoiding people again, bro? I was also giving the promotional pin by Dialed and Gummies that away because it's a promotional item. So I was giving it to customers. Wendy gave it to me and said, give one to my mom. Get real. I gave it to the customers to promote the brands. The customers were ecstatic. You have to realize the promotional items, including cannabis products, should be given to the customers before staff, but most of the staff don't think that way. I also tried to speak Spanish to a customer who didn't speak English well and was using a translator app to speak to us. I told him I spoke a little Spanish. Hablo español, señor, un poquito. I knew he was frustrated with using the app. He still stormed out angry. When he was told we didn't accept card and there was an ATM behind him. All he wanted was los flores muy fuerte. So now I'm issuing a challenge to Nick Lemert. Show the people the footage of the altercation or quit your job, homie, because you're in a world of shit. Put up or shut up. Prove to me that I avoid people. I'll be waiting.